I joined being from a community that was very high alcohol, so many things going on. I watched my friends die, and I wanted something else for me rather than going in that direction. So what I did was join the military. It gave me structure in my life. It helped me understand a lot of things. I served as 11 Bravo infantryman and then 11 Mike. And then we got sent over to Fort Benning, Georgia, and we became a cohort unit. Our first area was Garlstadt, Germany, and we were the farthest north, so we were always on ready for any time that the walls were there, from shells flying to bullets flying. It was something else to see. We trained on the 113s, and we used that for a year, and then the Bradleys came in. I carried a 203 M16, and I had my 203 vest with all my shells in there. The place we trained at was a huge training area. I always wondered how people didn't get hurt. I was proud to be in the military, and I was proud to say I went through basic training. I do support the VMLC, and I have since the early 2000s. The work that they do continues to help veterans. And at this time, with a lot of our veterans coming back disabled or PTSD, I'm so glad that I'm still a part, and I will continue to support it.
I was in the few, the proud, the greatest fighting force on Mother Earth, the United States Marine Corps. Well, I joined on my 17th birthday, and I went to boot camp at Parris Island, South Carolina. I was stationed with VMFW 223 as a radio man. The Korean War started when I was in boot camp, so they put me on a maintenance squadron going up to a new air base that they were opening north of Cherry Point. We lost our Air Sea Rescue helicopter crew chief, and I volunteered to take his place and was accepted. And anybody that didn't come back, we went out to find them, either bring them back or bring their bodies back. There was a couple of times that we were only able to get the bodies, and that was one hell of a assignment. Thank you. My most sincere appreciation for what you are doing for veterans. It is needed, and needed badly.
I'm in the Army, Arizona National Guard, 17 years and counting. I enlisted in the National Guard in 2001. I was in the last semester of a master's degree, and I had always had this urge to serve. So lo and behold, a year later is 9/11. So after that, the ball was just rolling very quickly. And a year after that, then, here I am deploying as a National Guardsman to a combat zone. At the time, I was still a specialist, and we deployed to Nasiriyah, Iraq. A lot of that has largely made me who I am today. I think it's given me a lot of opportunity to learn and experience bonds and camaraderie that the average person doesn't get to do. Serving my country, I think, has given me a lot of character, a lot of resiliency, a lot of strength. There was usually a price on the head of female soldiers. And so we would have to be very undercover or very protected, or there were just some missions that we were not able to go on. One time I went on a mission at a police station. I had to go in my crane and replace a generator. And there was a woman and her child sitting there outside of the police station, and she was carrying an infant as well. And so we had some goodies and things to give them. And, the team that I was with said, hey, you go give it to him because you're the girl. And so I said, okay, I'll go do it. So I walk up, and the little girl was very timid and the woman was very timid. And I took off my helmet, and I had a scarf around my head. And once I took the scarf off of my head, the little girl's eyes just lit up, because here's this little Iraqi girl, barefoot, poverty-stricken, I'm sure. And then she looks up to see this U.S. soldier who's a girl. That was probably one of the highlights of my career. So organizations like VMLC are really important to the returning veteran. Sometimes somebody may have had, the intention of serving as a career, But once they've had one too many deployments and they've had enough, they just go. And they're not always prepared to do that. They don't always have something to fall back on, but they have just simply had enough. And then sometimes they get kind of lost and on the wrong path, and they need that assistance to get them back on it and help get on their feet again.
I joined the Navy April 24, 1940, and went through training in San Diego, California. Went aboard the USS Platte Navy fuel oil tanker loaded with 6 million gallons of fuel oil. Went from San Diego to Pearl Harbor. Arrived in Pearl Harbor December the 12th, 1940, and was immediately assigned to a PBY squadron, VP 23, based on Fort Island. One of the things that I'll certainly never forget, Pearl Harbor, of course, you know, was 2 attacks, the first attack, and the second, which was an hour and 15 minutes later. Looking down Battleship Row to see all these ships on fire, all smoking, all sinking, was something I'll never forget. I had the duty that day, which means you stay ashore and stand watch. Moments later, we heard a terrible explosion. We run outside the hangar, and you say, what were your thoughts at that time? But fear, anger, surprise, whatever it is, it's all there. It so happens that one of my shipmates remembered there was a sewer line behind our hangar. He said, let's go for the ditch, follow me. We all ran, jumped in the ditch, sit there clinging to each other, wondering what's going to happen. One of the pilots seen us, circled, strafed the ditch with machine gun fire and hit the dirt piled up beside the ditch. That's missed us by probably 3 feet. My most vivid memory is, God, please don't let me die in this ditch. Martial law was immediately declared. Every ship's noise or every aircraft noise, we said, well, that's the Japanese fleet returning. Fortunately, that didn't happen, of course. We're also given at that time a postcard with 2 inscribed notices. The first one says, I've been wounded. The second one says, I am okay, don't worry. My mother received this card 11 days later. And afterwards, when I seen my mother and father, my father said my mother was in hysterics all this time. He said she got on her knees and prayed if God would protect her son. She would spend the rest of her life working for the church, and she did. It taught me to enjoy what I have. Love your country and be willing to defend it.
It began long before I ever enlisted in high school. I was a history major, and I had instilled in me a sense of service to the country. And shortly before graduation, I enlisted in the Air Force, United States Air Force. 2 weeks after cap and gown, I was on my way to basic training. I spent 8 years in the Air Force. My first assignment was to the Far Eastern Language Institute at Yale University. Kind of a unique experience with all the Yaleys while still in uniform. That was for Chinese Mandarin language. Not too long after that, I transferred to the Air Operations career field. We were Air Operations Liaison Unit with all the Allied Air Forces, certainly the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps, as well as the other allies who had air units there. And for the balance of the 8 years, I worked in that career field, including a 3-year tour in England and 15 months for Vietnam. And especially with what was then NORAD, the North American Air Defense Command, that part of my career was highly classified, and I was required to acquire a top secret crypto clearance, which meant that the FBI very thoroughly investigated my background. I had an experience that made me reflect on my own mortality. I came close to not surviving that conflict. And that moment, I think, was the time that I dedicated the balance of my life experience to those precepts of duty, honor, courage, and service. Unfortunately, some of our veterans are suffering from a lot of adverse situations in life that they cannot, for whatever reason, resolve themselves. And it takes organizations like VMLC to be able to provide assistance, help, guidance, whatever it happens to be. I'm extremely pleased that there are organizations like that that reach out to veterans. We did not always have that benefit in this country.